Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Karuna Life Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, I am Gina Kitzmiller. I am a Reiki master teacher. I'm an intuitive and author. I am the creator of the Karuna Life, and I am founder of Trimatri Reiki. And today I have a special guest with me. This is Nicole Turner, and Nicole and I have kind of an interesting backstory. So, a little bit about Nicole. She is also an energy healer. She is an author of a wonderful children's book that is called Into Nature We Go. She is into astrology and reflexology and all the stuff that I love to talk about on the Karuna Life podcast. And so, Nicole and I met. It's actually been a while now, hasn't it, Nicole? We've known each other for a few years. I met her initially as a Reiki student. Very impressed with her immediately. We became friends, and now I consider her one of my closest in my inner tribe. And she is one of the few people that I will go to for energy work because I am particular. So, Nicole and I have a very special topic today, which we are going to get into. But first, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, Nicole, and being on the podcast.
Thank you, Gina, for asking me to be on. I am honored to be here today.
So, a little bit about Nicole, because we'll have to explain a little bit, is that Nicole is pregnant right now, and she has an adorable 4-year-old son named Wyatt, who is close to my heart. And we've been talking about Nicole's pregnancy and what I've been seeing also with clients around these new light workers coming in and how the pregnancies are looking a little bit different now, which I believe is because of the vibration. So, we called in our teams of angels and guides to have this conversation. They asked us to include the baby's angels and guides as well. So, this is going to make for an interesting conversation about pregnancy right now for women who are trying to get pregnant, some of the things that they might encounter as well. So, Nicole, you have Wyatt, who is now 4. And so let's talk about before you even became pregnant with what we'll say is baby Turner, since you don't have a name picked
Mhm.
out yet. So before baby Turner was even here, let's talk about that. Like, were you intending to get pregnant? Do you mind sharing some of that information before you even became pregnant?
Yes. I mean, first of all, I am older. With my first, I was 39. And so we wanted to have the second child right away after. It took about 4 years. And so yes, we definitely had an intention out there that we wanted to get pregnant again. I just knew there'd be a second. Um, and the funny thing is now I'm 43, and so during this year, my husband and I just talked and we're like, well, I guess if we don't get pregnant this year, we'll just we probably won't go forward with it. So, yes, there was an intention of getting pregnant with the second child. Yeah.
When you found out that you were pregnant with this baby, was there a distinct shift? When I got pregnant with my second, Jules, and which I laugh because this is so her, I had my son Jonah, and I think he was about maybe 3 at the time. And we were kind of on the fence about having a second. Just because, you have this child and he's, your first, he was our world. And I was driving, and it's one of the few times that something just drops in that clear knowing. And I knew there was another child, and it was a little girl, and she was like, let's get the show on the road here, like I need to come through. And so I remember it was right before Christmas, and I came home and told Joe, like, hey, I think that I'd like to, go ahead and try for a second. Let's wait till after the holidays. And he was in agreement with it. And I was pregnant by the end of January, and she was born the following October. And I laughed that it was like I felt that like insistence, which is her personality of like, let's go, mom, like I got stuff to do. So, was it like a quiet knowing? Did you have dreams or signs or synchronicities, or just that whisper of knowing?
Whisper of knowing. Yeah. I did have dreams before, and I did. I mean, I'm gonna just talk a little bit about maybe my, miscarriages in between and where it led to with the baby, because I feel that's very important to where I ended up, or knowing that I was pregnant.
Okay, so go ahead. Can you talk a little bit about that period beforehand?
Yeah. So after I had Wyatt, It took about 2 years for us to get pregnant again. And so I had a miscarriage that was kind of more of a, like between 6 and 8 weeks. So that one I wasn't, you know, I knew that it was kind of one of those things like a push, a nudge of to know that I can get pregnant again. And it was a beautiful thing. But to tell you the truth, I didn't feel like I was pregnant. You just know. So, and that will lead up to how I knew I was pregnant with this child. Well, all of the blue, we got pregnant in November. At that time, it was another one of those things that I didn't feel like I was pregnant. Like I could feel that there was something there, but it wasn't like I had all the symptoms, I had all that, but it just didn't feel like there was a presence or like it just felt different. And so it was right around Christmas, I ended up having a miscarriage and I had to go to the emergency room. And it was one of those things where, I was bleeding a lot and I had to make decisions about whether or not we wanted a D&C and all of that. My blood, they were going to send me home. And so then when I went to go get up and leave, I ended up getting sick, turned white as a ghost, and passed out. And so, when that all happened, when I came to, we decided to go with the DNC. I had to have a blood transfusion because I was so low in hemoglobin. So we made those decisions. Now, looking back, I knew that was my kickstart for a healing journey. I just knew that it was meant to be. That the baby, because it needed to come in as a certain vibrational match to my body, I wasn't ready at that time. And even looking back, it was almost a wake up call and for a healing journey. And that's what I did. After that same month, I was like, I need to do the healing that I've been avoiding. And that was a lot of emotional release. And so this journey led me to this child now. And when I found out I was pregnant, I even knew before. I just had a knowing. It was like a click, like a presence was there. And I would have dreams. I do have a lot of dreams. We talk about that because I do have a lot of dreams. I feel like a lot of my messages come through dreams. I would get dreams of, for example, being at a checkout and like a store, and I would be like scanning like little baby clothes and like a baby was coming or something. It was so I did have a lot of dreams. And so I just knew when I was pregnant, even before the pregnancy test, that I was pregnant and this was going to be different. So,
I like your framing around it, and I don't want to discount, like, the grief that we have, like, over like, I haven't experienced a miscarriage, but I have friends and family members that have, so I just wanna, like and it makes me tear up, but I, like, wanna touch
yeah,
on that because there is a grieving process to it. I love that you were able to frame it maybe in a different way that felt healing to you, and I had heard years ago, and it was just something that resonated with me, it may not resonate with everyone, that oftentimes a miscarriage is a real gift that like a baby in spirit will choose to come through to help almost like either energetically or I would say even physically, like chemically help reset mom so that
mhm,
another child can come through and go to term. And it's a beautiful gift. And there's so much love behind that, right? Like, I love you and I'm going
yeah,
to come in to help so that you can bring forward the next sibling. And I've had clients that have had miscarriages and you can feel the baby's presence oftentimes and the love that they have for the mom. So I just want to acknowledge that and to acknowledge your little ones. It was a real gift, I think, that they gave. So I wish we had a name for baby so I could say like and baby the one that's coming in, but he's being selective. So
yes.
you are how many weeks now?
36 weeks.
So you're like kind of coming towards the
The
the final
last leg.
chapters.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And I remember those days.
Yeah.
So I love that you had the dreams and the synchronicities, and yours are very clear. I feel like your communication with your spirit guides always seems like it often comes through with very specific signs. And for people who don't know, Nicole is able to ask her team, "Can you show me?" Do you want to explain the story about how you asked your guides if you should even be on the podcast and how you determined that it was
Oh
approved or
gosh.
that it was a good idea? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, didn't I was listening to something and something came through. Yeah,
And it was
I
a number sequence.
oh yeah, gosh, you have a better memory than I do right now. Um
It's because I'm not 36 weeks
oh
pregnant.
yes, I saw the 222 right on the
Yes.
license plate. So yes, that morning I had asked because Gina had reached out and I had asked right away because I have really stepped into my intuition of asking before I do something, even if, I do feel like it's good, I still want to have that, yes, go ahead kind of, signs. So a lot of times I will step back and just ask, show me within 24 hours, show me within 72 hours. If this is meant to be, show me a sign, show me a 222, show me, anything that has to be related to what she wants me to talk about or anything like that. And that later that day, I was driving and I saw 222 on a license plate. But I saw it quite a bit before that, even. So
Didn't
I
you say like a
knew,
truck actually like cut you off?
yes, yes, a truck did cut me off, and that had 222. And so I saw several of that morning or that day. And then I was listening to a podcast, and what I never like really go through and just like I just let whatever wants to come through for that time that I'm connected. And the one that came through was about the children coming through these days. So it was
Love
very
that.
interesting, and the vibrations that are coming through. So I
I
had to
love that.
call I had to call Gina right away and let her know about that.
Which I loved. I thought it was great. So when we talk
Yeah.
about the children that are coming through, and I can tell you a little bit about what I'm seeing, and then I'd love to get your input on it, is in the last several years, I would say that oftentimes when someone tells me they're pregnant or I have a client that I'm working with, what you feel is that there's some real powerhouses is what I always call them. And you can feel almost, I would say, like the energetic I felt with my daughter of like, let's get the show on the road. Like I'm ready to go. Like it feels like, okay, we've got momentum. Like I'm ready. And a lot of them, my understanding is one, sometimes there are energetics that need to be completed. And I do have people that I see that like they come because I think they get guided to me because there's an energetic or something that needs to be cleared in the field to help get that vibration up so that the child can come through. But what I've also seen to just let anyone know who is pregnant. So I see the guides and the angels standing around mom and they're watching and they're also monitoring. They're monitoring like her energetics and if she's going to be able to carry this child to term because some of them are very, very high vibration, which affects the physical and the energy body. And so there's a lot of support often going on, I think, behind the scenes for women now who are pregnant to make sure that they are able to go to term and these little souls are able to be born into the world. But they are a different energetic. I think a lot of these kids are going to be highly, highly sensitive. I think they're going to be wired a little bit differently because we're already seeing that in the kids who were born, 2010, around that time period moving through. And now it feels like there's another level kind of coming in at this time that they were that start of this wave. But some of the kids coming in now, I mean, like I get goosebumps like when I think about it. They are so high vibration and they really are, I think, going to be very special for how we move forward in the world. And I think obviously it's very needed right now. So, do you feel that this pregnancy is, and it's obviously, and it's not a comparison to Wyatt. Wyatt is just such a joy and he is a light as well. With this pregnancy, did you notice anything though, now that you are a little further along in, I would say, your spiritual journey or healing that might be different from your pregnancy with him?
Yeah. Yeah. Um Spiritually and physically, I do feel different. Maybe not right up front. Um, I had the knowing and everything. But as I progressed, just the need for connecting to nature, the need to be outdoors, the need to have a healthy lifestyle, just that vibrational match of being healthier, craving the healthy things like salads or just things like grass-fed meats and just really nutritional foods that can help the baby. With my first pregnancy, I always wanted sweets all the time. I also at that time was working. I was in the corporate world. So, you have a little bit more stress. You don't have access to those things right away, too, like the nutritional things unless you bring it. So I was snacking, I was doing stuff that wasn't as, you know, probably healthy as it is in this one. Once I started down this path of the spiritual awakening and everything, I did go down more healthier lifestyle, but I'll tell you this one has been the lifestyle that I have is way different than Wyatt's pregnancy. And so another thing is in his pregnancy, I did get preeclampsia, and it came on fast. I mean, it was at 37 weeks, and I literally went in the week before, I was fine. Then I went in this, and it was, it came on. And that I feel was divine timing, was divine intervention to bring him into the world because of the cord was wrapped around his neck twice. And I feel like that had to be at the time to deliver him. Now, this one, I have done a lot of prevention. The brewer's diet has been huge. I eat a lot of grass fed, like meat, anything I can do as far as red meat, salt, not the table salt, but like a Celtic sea salt. I want to walk more. I just overall feel better. I haven't swelled. Now I'm at 36 weeks, so we're coming up. But with Wyatt, I already was swelling. So this time around, it's definitely been better. I will say I had a lot more morning sickness with this one. So I almost felt like that was a vibrational, like trying to bring my body up to the vibrational match of this baby. Spiritually, spiritually, I've went down a whole path of a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer of making sure this baby goes till at least 37 weeks, just praying to God. And I've really opened up more to God and Jesus than I have in the past. It's actually a really beautiful thing where I'm at right now. My intuition is, I don't really seek a lot of guidance outside of what I find, like that I ask myself and look for the signs. I also listen. I listen a lot to the guidance. So spiritually, I just feel protected. And I don't have that worry. I don't have that sense of fear going into labor. We're doing things a little different this time around, trying to go naturally unmedicated. So I don't have the fear of all of that I did in the first. And so I feel like it's almost the baby putting that out, but also the protection that I have around me. That has been amazing.
Yeah, you can feel it when you talk about it. And I had the pleasure of doing Reiki on Nicole when she was pregnant, and it was really fun. So let's talk about the intuition. And when you talk about it, what kind of jumps out to me is that I like that it's not like you're talking about very nutrient dense food, right? It doesn't feel super restrictive. It just feels like I'm just eating very nutrient dense food. I'm getting movement, like all the things that we all should be doing, but it sounds like it's more important. So before we like dive kind of sidetrack into the spiritual, because I definitely want to go there, I have to ask, just out of curiosity, as you were talking, what popped in my head, I was wondering, so what happens like if you do eat something? Like let's say you were traveling and you needed to stop and get like Wendy's or something. Like do you get like sick, or do you notice you don't feel well? Like if you don't eat foods that are really nutrient dense?
Yeah, it's very seldom that I do that. I usually try to find something that's gonna have like a salad or something like that, which is kind of crazy because usually I'd be like, oh, go with flow, whatever. Now I just crave those things. But yeah, no, I do actually feel, I think I had like a little, because we went trick or treating and they had a little Snickers bar. Yeah, those things don't make me feel very good anymore. I can just feel it right away. So,
And it sounds like your intuition is really firing. Like when you talk about that, like being able to even have the body awareness of like, I ate this and I don't feel quite right. It's just not quite like almost vibrationally matching with what I need right now. So, can we talk? I loved how you were saying about that deepening of faith, the deepening of like trust and that you are protected. So I'm kind of curious if you don't mind, and you certainly don't have to share, but do you have like any like practices? Because obviously you're a full-time mom. Like it's like you've got a 4-year-old who is very energetic. And so you're trying to balance like all the stuff that we all have day to day, caring for this child. So it's like, how do you find the time to, meditate? What does that look like? What do you do on days that you're really busy? Like, are there days that you just can't get to it because you've got all these other, things pulling your attention?
yeah, it has been tricky this time around just because I have a almost 4-year-old and he sometimes will go down, sometimes will not. So, as far as the practice, I do try to take him out as much as possible. So, like if we can go to a park or somewhere that we can go into nature and just walk and do things like that, that helps me connect while trying to reel back in a 4-year-old. So I have that, but then I do try to meditate. So, you know, I've had situations where I wake up in the middle of the night, especially towards the end of the pregnancy, because it's just I'm not comfortable, right? So a lot of times during that time, I will try to just sit for 10 minutes and just 5, 10 minutes and just try to bring through, divine God through my body and through my chakras and connect to the earth as well. So I try to go above and below to connect in the middle where my heart chakra is and just cleanse anything, activate anything. So that's kind of how I do my meditations. And then just as far I started to go back to church. That's my husband is more my husband that really I went through a whole phase like a few years ago. So I am starting to go back to all of that and it's funny to see my son see all of that too, because he's been having dreams and everything about Jesus and God. And so it's just allowing that to come back into my life. Not that I like discounted it before, but it was one of those things where I was exploring and trying to figure out and curious of other things and felt like there's just so much out there. So I have been going to church more, been praying. So I have this supernatural childbirth book that was recommended, and it talks about this woman that back in the 60s that couldn't conceive and the prayer to God and that we weren't intended to have pain and suffering like that. So just praying through that and just praying to my body, asking my body to be ready when it's ready to come, to go to at least 37 weeks with the baby, also praying to the baby. And that has helped a lot. That's helped a lot with fear and knowing that I'm going to be having, hopefully, naturally unmedicated. So just preparing me for that. That has been huge, like just praying even for other things, praying for, you know, just health and health for baby and my family and has been huge. And I think that book kind of helped me with that too.
I know. I think sometimes they kind of guide us to what we need to hear, what will be helpful. And I like that you talk about faith because I think that they don't have to be separate. And oftentimes in like the metaphysical world, it feels like people feel like it has to be an either or. And yet I always think it can be this really beautiful blend that's uniquely you that fits you. So I'm glad that you kind of said that because it's like we're doing both, right? Like I can do a meditation and invite divine light in. I can address the energy centers of the chakras. And I like that you do above and below because I think that's really important, especially when we're talking about anchoring frequencies. When you're pregnant, you're helping to anchor in this different frequency. space. I think it's vital to have it to be both. It would be imbalanced if we forgot to anchor that into the earth, or
Yeah.
we always like to do the high chakras. Everyone wants the third eye and the crown. But the root chakra is really important, especially when you're pregnant. So to make sure that we're taking the time to also ground down. But I love that. It feels comforting. And I remember with pregnancy, there was all those fears, right? Like the what ifs, and there's so many unknowns because we can't see what's going on with baby and how's labor going to go. But you seem really at peace with it. So whatever it is you're doing, even if it's those small windows, it does seem to be really helping because you feel very grounded, very peaceful, rather than so many people right now, especially with all the energies coming in, very anxious, and it's like very reactive energy for a lot of folks. And you're just as grounded as can be, Nicole, like, yep, I've got this. And so when you were talking about with meditating and praying and all of that, and you said you also like pray to baby and say, please help. Do you get any responses back, or do you have any feelings like intuitively about little one?
Um, I mean, not as far as I mean, when I pray and everything, I'm praying for the baby, like the body and the health and pray to the eyes to be able to see like perfect sight, those kind of things. So I don't get too much from that.
Do you mind if I share the one thing I got when we had the session about the little one being tickled by the energy when I was
Oh
sending
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So I wanted to share. So I was able to do Reiki on Nicole when she was pregnant not that long ago. And so when I started sending like energy in, like and around like her belly, I felt like this little like 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 a giggle, and like it like tickled the little one. So which just made me laugh, but it was like it was really sweet. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
Um,
that was funny. It was nice to hear.
So, when we talk about this pregnancy, do you feel that it's initiated like a spiritual upgrade, so to speak? Because it sounds like really, even if we go back, that it sounds like the miscarriages really became kind of this, I would almost say an initiation and like kind of into a healing journey. And then it's continued, and then we're now pregnant. But do you feel like now that you are pregnant, that there's kind of a level up happening around your intuition with this pregnancy?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that feeling. I mean, a couple things, I've had a dream where there was a rattlesnake, but as I sat with that more, I felt like that had to do a little bit with releasing something that was blocking me, and even kundalini, like spiritual energy, something had been initiated from that. And I feel like baby had a lot to do with that too, to help out. And I think this baby is I can feel that this baby is vibrationally higher. And so for me, I had to go through the steps to do whatever I needed to do to get to this point. It, the miscarriages played a role, like you said, to get me to be at a higher vibration. I more trust the process now and just go with the flow as much as possible as I can. And it has helped so much with just the worry, the fear, to release all that and to know that whatever comes, it's meant to be, and that it will come, it'll be a moment, and then it will be the next phase or journey. I think what it really has allowed me to do is, yes, the spiritual initiation, like an upgrade, but also my intuition has gotten stronger. I also feel like there's like a God's positioning system within me. Like, I trust in God and what synchronicities and whatever is meant to be is going to come, and to let it all go. So,
Like that. I won't even try to interpret that dream, and there's a lot of symbolism there. And I also feel that people often, because when I have dreams and I'll ask like my spirit guides, they'll say often it's both. Like often dreams are very layered in meaning. And so it's not like it has to be this or that. But I do know that snakes typically mean knowledge. And so that's kind
yeah.
of interesting to me when you were talking about it. I was like wondering if the snake had like a symbolism. What do you feel like the snake like represented? Do you feel there was a symbolism there?
Yeah, I do feel like there was some kind of wisdom or knowledge that's being released. I think I was blocking myself. just before that. And the thing is that when I got pregnant with Wyatt, it took me 4 years to get pregnant with him. And it was one of those things where it was right after I started my spiritual journey and everything. And I just listened. I look back at the synchronicities now and I'm like, wow, that's crazy what they led me to during that time so that I could have a child, right? I kept on hearing acupuncture. Like, I think I had 5 people recommend acupuncture. And then finally, I was at this one place and somebody had handed me a card and said, this is the person you should go to. And so I started going to this person, and it transitioned it into me being able to get pregnant. And I really do think he had a huge part in that. So trying to conceive if you feel like you're not, you know, if things aren't going down that path, I would recommend just having a support team. Having your support team, I do acupuncture. I go to a chiropractor. I have a naturopath. I've done Reiki throughout the pregnancy. If you feel comfortable, I did emotion code, like releasing emotion code for me, the baby, and Wyatt, because I want to make sure Wyatt was okay with, the jealousy and all that so that he could release that as well. So I do have a support team. And just your diet is huge. Your diet, your lifestyle is huge throughout your pregnancy. Meditation is huge. So, sorry, that was a long
Oh, I think it's
way
really
into
good.
it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that, my son is 17, and wasn't really very far into intuition back when I was pregnant with him, and I wish I was. Like, I look back and, it is who we were at the time, but I didn't stop to ask those questions. I didn't eat super healthy. We joke that I loved Wendy's chocolate Frosties during that pregnancy, and I kind of did what a lot of people do. That was like I kind of gave free rein, to be like, well, I'm pregnant. I should just, be able to eat whatever I want. And so he kind of teases me about it now. He'll say, like, Mom, like my ears, I have two different like size ears. And then he has asthma and he'll go, well, you had to have like the Wendy's Frosties. And you're like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know. And then with my daughter, I think I was just starting to care for myself a little bit more. I was eating more healthy. So I think that you have to kind of listen to your own intuition. And I like that having that support team because everyone needs it. And I think that it's important, even emotionally, to have people who can understand and relate so that if you are trying to get pregnant, I know there's a lot of frustration that goes and stress that goes around that. So do you have people that you can talk to that get it, that understand like kind of that pressure or the disappointments, that you feel like you're able to have that support around you? I think is really important. I think the path is going to look differently for everyone, but it's to start to follow those nudges of, gosh, this keeps coming up, or I'm being directed to this person. But I think oftentimes we don't pay attention, and we also don't pay attention to our doctors, our providers. We don't listen. Is this really the right person for me? And to ask either your spirit team or God, please help me to find the most perfect doctor for me, the most perfect practitioner. Not every baby is going to want to have energy healing. Some of them are going to be like, I'm good, but maybe get this person away from me. You have to listen to the little waves of intuition, those little whispers of intuition of, is this a lean in or am I getting a lean out? And if you're getting lean out, I would say tread cautiously with whatever that is, right? Give it some more time, think about it, sit with it some more, and then make a decision. But too often we just kind of throw ourselves forward in an effort to control too, right? Like someone might
Right.
hear this and say, Nicole did this, and this. So now I have to go out and do exactly what she did. And I would caution, she's given some great examples, but like sit with that, ask for
Yes.
help, ask for guidance. You don't have to make a decision, and see kind of what unfolds. That's part of learning to listen to our intuition of what is needed for you rather than what was needed for her. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, exactly. And even so, like when you do get pregnant, your OBGYN, your midwife, um, doulas, those all are very important in your process too, like your pregnancy and then going to birth. And so really sit with it and it's okay to fire someone. to be able to have what you want, what you feel comfortable with. And I feel like that also was one thing that came up when I had my DNC and had the miscarriage at 3 months. I had to step back, and I felt like my OBGYN came into my it was almost like a divine intervention with that as well, because they brought my OBGYN into my world for this pregnancy this time too. So it's I know we kind of went back and forth with that, but I felt like that DNC was huge. It just it brought in things that then eventually came to my pregnancy. Be it I was able to get pregnant, I was able to have the right people in place. And I
I
still,
didn't
to
know
this
that. Yeah.
day, constantly say and pray, please, when I do go into labor, and even for the rest of this pregnancy, when I do go into labor, when I do go into delivery, even postpartum recovery, that I have the right people in place, right beings around me in place that will definitely support me in my journey and be high vibrational, match or even be higher our vibrations so that whoever is handling my child when we are born or when he is born, that it's the right people in place.
That's beautiful. So there's even though it was an incredibly difficult experience, it sounds like you can feel your sense of gratitude that there were actually some gifts and to be able to look back and say, this actually was a horrible experience, but it brought some things to me that I may not have had otherwise. And it brought people to
Mhm.
me that were the right people that had to find that avenue in order to be able to come into your life.
Yeah, it was like placing them at the right timing into my life. And I just want to comment. I did have to go through a grieving process. It wasn't like I, just stepped out of it and was like, "Ooh, I went through a healing journey. I'm ready to heal." I did have to go through a healing or grieving time for it as well. And even later through my healing journey, I found out that I still had more grieving to do and that I needed to sit with it and process it. And so, even though it helped me down the path to heal, and I mean, we're all working on ourselves, right? Like, there's still a lot of healing there's probably things that I don't even know about that I need to heal from, right? So, it's always a thing that you're always going to want to do or be working on. But, it was just one of those things where I did have to grieve, but I also was able to go down the path of starting that healing journey to get where I needed to go.
I'm glad you said that because I think it would be too easy for someone to kind of question, like, if they're like, "Gosh, I'm really grieving this," right? There is it's a loss. It's a loss like any other, and that's gonna be its own process, and it can lead to healing. It can be but it often is with most things, it's not one or the other, it's both, right? I'm grieving and I'm healing, and I think it's important to note that because I think too often we can jump into spiritual bypassing, which is like, we wanna rationalize it away, "Oh, I'm moving ahead," and we don't really acknowledge the wounds on the heart, right? Like, actually, your
Mhm.
heart is really grieving right now, right? I'm actually really sad, and can I have those moments to cry and to grieve it and to feel the loss and know that and I'm healing through that process. I always say I'm very leery of anyone that says that I'm completely healed, I've achieved it, because if we've achieved it, we would not be here. So if
Mhm.
you are still incarnated here, that's my belief of then there's still things for you to work on. If not, you wouldn't be here. So we all have
Right.
our stuff, myself included. Um, so I'm wondering if the baby to be, yet to be named. Oh, they are dropping something in, and I wanted to bring this up. It's on a side note, though, that I've worked with a few clients that were trying to get pregnant, and I have talked with the spirit of baby before they come in. And one of the things that happened in a session that I wanted to share without disclosing anything that I thought was really cute was that there was kind of the spirit of a child that was a little bit reluctant. This is years ago to come in, and so I was like almost encouraging, like, there's so many great things, you're going to have birthday parties and you're going to have this. And so what I thought was really interesting though is I think it's in the Kundalini practice, or at least that's where I first heard this, was through Kundalini yoga, that they often will have a party during the 7th month of pregnancy to welcome what they believe is that's when the soul really, really fully incarnates in. And so I had kind of mentioned it offhandedly to this client, and this soul, this baby was like, yes, like so he was so excited. He really wanted the party at 7 months. And so I don't want to get into, a theoretical debate of, when does the soul come in? But I can tell you that this particular child was very excited for that 7th month, like welcoming party. So I do feel that if someone feels like inclined to do it, we do baby showers and that's great. But even if you did something separately with your close inner circle or even just between mom and baby, but there's something about that community, I think, welcoming in the child and saying, we're so excited you're coming. It's something that I wish I had done with my kids.
Yeah. And I remember you mentioning that to me. And I do feel like around that time, the baby's kicking more. It just feels more real, like the baby is there, around. I'm like holding my belly as I'm talking though. So yeah, I do feel like it is there's something there about that it's just more real that it's coming in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like to be celebrated, right? So it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I will say too that I often tell people that I do believe we often choose our parents, and I know some people may say I would have never chosen these parents, but I do think that often people who have a heart desire to have children, there's always many different ways to have a child come into your life, to be a parent of a child, right? And sometimes, and I've seen there's children that have come in for people that if they don't actually have them and are the parent, they might be that aunt or uncle that they're so close with and that they kind of step into that parenting role. So there's all these different kind of ways that they can come in and have that relationship. But I think it's really interesting that often these are ones that have a soul contract. And so if it's on your heart, if you feel like I'm meant to have a child, I would say trust that, right? Because I do think that's often what you're feeling is the soul contract of I've agreed to parent in this lifetime or to be in the role of parent. And so oftentimes that is what people are reading, but sometimes we have that fear of we're worried it's not going to happen. We can't, you might be 30 and you can't see, 10, 15 years down the road. So it's like there's this anxiety. But I think the more that you can kind of calm, just keep doing your healing work, taking care of yourself, and doing all of those things, that just allowing it to unfold in the way that it's meant to unfold for you. Would you agree with
Yeah.
that, Nicole?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, because it took 4 years for Wyatt and then 4 years for this baby. And, I'm 43, gonna be 44 in February. And it's one of those things where, I kind of put some things on hold because I knew I was gonna have a second child. So, but I had to just go with the flow of what was all coming. And so then I focused on Wyatt and focused on what he needed and my health and healing journey. And even though it took a little bit longer, it was meant to be when it was meant to be. And I totally feel that when I got pregnant this time of I am completely ready for this time around. And whereas when I got pregnant 2 years ago and went through the miscarriage, I don't know if I was completely ready because Wyatt was like 2, almost 3, I think. And he is so active and needs more of my attention. And looking back at everything, everything is meant to be. You don't see it when you're in it. Um, but when you come out of it, you're like, that was totally meant to be. And it is perfect where it landed.
And I also want to note the importance of the role of mothers that oftentimes we discredit or we kind of put in a lower category. I feel like we often as society we discredit the role of mom, but that's probably like one of the most important jobs that anyone could have because you're now raising these children that are going to be taking over and making decisions in the future. So for those of you that have little ones, and Nicole knows I've told her this before too, as someone who's on like the opposite end with teenagers, still an important role. And trust me, it gets busy again with teenagers, but it is such an important role in those early years. They're so formative. And oftentimes, I always say the best advice I got was someone who said that the days are long, but the years are fast. And nothing has ever been said that was truer to me with raising my kids. And so, for those of you that are home, just know that, and also know that it is an incredibly important role. It's not one that is less than any other job that we have. I would say it's more important. What we're doing is divine work, I would say.
Yeah. And I'm blessed that I am able to stay home with Wyatt and help him through his journey and make the decisions that I feel that have come out of all of this. I mean, like even my intuition and just asking for guidance from his team and my team, um, that I've been able to make decisions that I feel have helped him grow and expand. And so I'm blessed that I am able to stay home with him. So
He is a light. I like adore Wyatt is like this. He just lights me up. He is
he
just
has
this.
a
He is
lot
as
of
a
energy.
he does, and I always tell Nicole it's like it's fun to get to come in and be around it because he's just the
Yeah.
sweetest thing. I know they're handfuls when they're high energy because my son was high energy when he was younger
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And it's
Uh,
kind of now, like being pregnant with this baby, I just feel like the temperament of this baby. I'm curious to see how it's going to be, how it unfolds, but just feels, yeah, like the baby wants to come in and get into this world and be like, I have a mission. I need to do this and this and this. But I also feel like this baby is just more peace and calm. And because with my first pregnancy with Wyatt, I was going through I hadn't worked on all my emotions and healing journey. And with this one, I have, and I can tell the difference. Like, I don't get triggered as much. Wyatt definitely came into this world to teach me a lot. And I feel like that was his role for me anyway. And he has other missions, I'm sure. And this baby just seems like more, I want to say light worker.
I love that. So let me ask, because I know for a lot of people, obviously the world it's a chaotic place. It's a very distracted place. There's a lot of duality going on right now, getting pulled in opposite directions and sides. For people who would say like, oh, I just don't want to have a child like in this world, or, what are your thoughts about that? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, it really is. Yeah, I totally understand what they're saying. Because, yeah, you look at it and you're like, ooh, golly. And I've had to make decisions with Wyatt and even this baby being pregnant that I think, when I was 30 would have been way different. Um, and that's really what you need to step back as is, they're coming in here for a reason and they'll find a way if they really need to. Right? But yeah, I understand it is a chaotic world right now. There's a lot of things that we're going through, upheaval. There's a lot of things, but there is so much to look forward to too. I mean, just think about how much you're missing out on having if you really do want to have children, but there's just so much out there that you can do, like go out into nature, go out and show them the world, a different world. There's some things you can't sometimes avoid, and you just have to figure out ways around it, right? And it is harder these days, screen time, all of that is harder. It's harder to say no on those kind of things because a lot of people use those. So that I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to make decisions on that are way different than probably even 10 years ago. But those are the things that for us has been difficult, but I know I'm making a right decision on certain things. So I do understand that that was a concern of mine too. But and I think that's also why the babies waited to come to me until I was later in life because I started my spiritual journey in 2018. I mean, I always had stuff around me for how many years, but after I had Wyatt, it was almost like when I was pregnant with Wyatt, I didn't feel everything, like the spiritual upgrades or anything, even though I knew things were happening. But after that, it really sparked. Like there were so many things. Like I met Gina. I mean, there were just so many people that synchronistically came into my life. And then just me sensing things. Like I could start sensing, like I'd get chills down my legs when I sense spirit. I wasn't having that before. And so I'm kind of curious how it's going to go after this baby comes. I do feel like, in a way, they are waiting for people that are older too, because there's a lot of people that are having children older now as well, I've noticed. So,
I
not saying
like
that
that.
that's everyone, because
Right,
it
and I always
happens.
say I'll be curious, like, to see over the next, like, 10 to 15 years because what I notice with the teenagers, the few that I've worked with and, like, the young people that I see in their 20s, is that they're processing much faster. So they're processing a lot of their emotional wounds that like my generation at 50, we were processing probably around like 40, right? Like all these things. And you're like, I need to start looking at that from childhood. Well, that group seems like they're hitting that much earlier and doing it in their early 20s as opposed to waiting until they're 40 to really start to dig in around that. So I'm curious to see as they get older what that like shift starts to look like because they're going to be moving that needle, so to speak. So I'm kind of curious kind of how this is going to like play out in terms of the kids that they have and the light workers and that come in. And I will say that I want to note too that when I work with people in the Akashic Records, oftentimes what comes through is that a lot of us, including our age and the younger ones that are incarnating in, is that we have years and lifetimes of experience that we're bringing those skills and we've almost trained for, I believe, this time, this transition period, so that you do have the skills, even if it's not in this life, that you're bringing in from past lifetimes so that you can incarnate here. And I had heard, and it always resonated with me, is that there's like a waiting list. Like people often think that people are forced to come or they're forced to incarnate. And I don't feel like that at all. I feel like it's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to have had those lifetimes to be incarnated at this time. Doesn't mean it's easy. I think it's an incredibly challenging time to be here. But we're the ones that have had the training and the experience that were permitted. So there is, I think, oftentimes almost like a backlog on souls and beings that would like to be incarnated here. So I don't think it's a matter of trying. And I do know that one little soul we were kind of encouraging, but I think that that's not the norm. I think for him, he just kind of was looking at it going, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to come down there." So, but I think that was kind of not the usual. So for most
Yes,
people, it's like these aren't newbies that are coming in. These are old
right.
souls that have lifetimes of experience that are, very deep, very old wisdom, I would say, that are coming in to kind of help us through this transition period.
Yeah, and it's important to note too, everyone comes in with gifts. Everyone comes in with abilities, with that sense of their soul and otherworldly things, right? I believe in it too, that we do choose family, our parents. And so when we do come in, we want the lessons that we need to learn in this lifetime. But we also come in with all of those connected to all of that. Most of us probably do. Um, but then along the way, we have free will, right? And there are things that, within the first 5 years that happen or like that you experience that might shut it off. And so I'm not saying that like for me, I have a special child or anything like, even though I know you're special, but to me, you're special. I think everybody is born that way. And it just somehow gets shut off sometimes. It shut off for me, and it just took me a long time to get back to it. So,
I like that. Everyone's got that divine spark. And
yeah.
I do think those first years are incredibly critical and all of us have things that have happened in those time frames that kind of they shape who we are and who we become, but we always have that spark. So I love that. Okay, so Nicole, so where can people I know that you are a full-time mom right now, but if someone wanted to reach you for resources or had a question, where can they reach you?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently not online as far as a website or anything. I do have an email address, Nicole Lee Turner, so NicoleLeaTurner at gmail.com. So they can always email me there. I do have Instagram because of my book, Into Nature We Go. I'm launching all of that and trying to see kind of where this baby goes and all this from here because I feel like there's some things coming for me after the baby comes.
I adore your book. So, wear a kit if someone has little ones or Christmas is coming and we have gifts. And when we talk about, particularly with books, there's an energy resonance. And your book has a very beautiful energy resonance for people who don't know. Nicole, like, wrote this book. She also did the illustrations, and they're amazing. Like, you would think she had gone to school for art or design. And I was just floored by it that she really is, it looks like an illustrator did the book. So, where can people find Into Nature We Go?
Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Perfect. And I will
Yep.
put links to both of those in the show notes for anyone who would like to find that. But it's a really beautiful book. So, thank you so much for being here, Nicole. If anyone is interested in learning more about my work and my offerings, I teach Reiki. We have a certification course for Trimatri Reiki, as well as mentorship programs, and I see clients from around the world. So, you can find my stuff at thekarunalife.com. And if anyone has any suggestions or comments about this episode, certainly you can email me, Gina at thekarunalife.com. And if you enjoyed it, please consider leaving us 5 stars and subscribing. We'd be really grateful. So, Nicole, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. I have a feeling that, what do you think we could maybe have you on after baby is born to
Yeah.
update us about how things are going for
Yeah,
you?
definitely. Yes. And thank you for having me on. Yes, it was a good conversation. So.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.